Have you ever felt drained after going out of your way to help someone, so much so that you begin to wonder if your kindness is hurting more than it's helping? Maybe you've found yourself picking up extra tasks at work, consoling a friend at all hours, or taking on family obligations without pause, only to realize you've sacrificed your own well-being in the process. It's a scenario many of us know too well. The more you give, the more people seem to expect, until your once genuine acts of kindness leave you feeling used, unseen, and utterly exhausted. This brings us to a pivotal question. When does kindness cross the line into self-sacrifice? And more importantly, how can you maintain your generous spirit without losing yourself along the way? The answer lies not in abandoning kindness, but in redefining it, balancing your compassion with wisdom, self-awareness, and healthy boundaries. In this video, we'll explore 6 transformative lessons inspired by ancient Stoic philosophy and practical insights. These lessons will help you set clear limits, reclaim your energy, and ensure that your kindness remains a source of strength and joy rather than a burden. Let's dive in and rediscover how to be kind in a way that truly serves both others and yourself. Lesson 1. Balancing kindness and boundaries. Kindness is one of the most profound gifts you can offer the world. It builds trust, forges meaningful connections, and has the power to transform relationships. Yet, without proper boundaries, kindness can morph into a heavy burden, leaving you drained, overwhelmed, and even resentful. Picture this: a compassionate nurse who never says no. She volunteers for every extra shift, stays late to help colleagues, and always takes on additional patients, even when her own health suffers. In the beginning, her generosity seems heroic, but over time, the constant giving takes its toll. Instead of feeling valued, she feels taken for granted. Instead of finding joy in her work, she feels exhausted and unappreciated. Have you ever found yourself in a similar situation where your kindness begins to feel like a trap rather than a gift? Often we say yes out of a desire to help, or because we fear disappointing others. But this instinctive response can lead to a slow erosion of well-being. When you put everyone else first, your own needs inevitably fall by the wayside. The ancient Stoics, masters of practical wisdom, understood this delicate balance. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." His words remind us that while we can't control how others react to our generosity, we can control how and when we choose to give. The key lies in self-awareness. When you give without limits or pause, you inadvertently create an expectation that you're always available, always willing. Over time, others may start to assume that your kindness is endless, rather than recognizing it as a conscious, thoughtful act. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, advised, "Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life." In other words, each act of kindness should be deliberate, not automatic. It should come from a place of strength and clarity, not from a sense of obligation that slowly drains your resources. By treating each opportunity to help as a choice rather than a default response, you regain control over your time, energy, and overall well-being. So how can you start setting boundaries in your kindness? Begin by examining your motivations. Before agreeing to a request, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, why am I saying yes? Is it because I genuinely have the time and energy, or because I'm afraid of seeming selfish or unkind? This moment of reflection allows you to separate true goodwill from fear-based obligations. If you realize that saying yes would leave you stretched too thin, practice saying no. At first, it may feel awkward or uncomfortable, but remember, Saying no doesn't mean you're abandoning kindness. It means you're valuing your own well-being enough to give thoughtfully rather than impulsively. A simple, polite response, such as, "I'm sorry, but I can't take that on right now," can maintain your relationships while preserving your energy. One of the most surprising lessons is that boundaries actually enhance the quality of your kindness. When you give thoughtfully, you can focus on the people and causes that truly matter to you. Instead of feeling overburdened, you'll feel fulfilled, knowing your efforts are intentional and impactful. Over time, this approach encourages those around you to appreciate your generosity more deeply. When kindness is a deliberate choice, it becomes more meaningful, both to you and to those you help. It's equally important to let go of the expectation of reciprocity. Often, we give hoping for appreciation, gratitude, or support in return. Yet the Stoics teach us that true freedom comes from letting go of these silent contracts. Marcus Aurelius reflected, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This means being kind because it aligns with your values, not because you're hoping for recognition. By giving without strings attached, you free yourself from disappointment and ensure that your kindness remains authentic and sustainable. In practice, this could look like responding differently to a friend who frequently asks for help moving, preparing projects, or providing emotional support. Instead of automatically agreeing, take a moment to consider, do I have the bandwidth to help right now? Will this decision leave me feeling good tomorrow? If the answer is no, respond honestly and respectfully. I'd love to help another time, but I'm focused on other priorities right now. Over time, this practice not only safeguards your well-being, but also helps your friends understand and respect your boundaries. Kindness is a powerful force, but it thrives best when guided by wisdom and self-respect. By setting clear limits, you ensure that your generosity remains a source of strength and fulfillment, not a burden. The next time someone asks for your help, pause. Reflect on your motivations, your capacity, and your personal boundaries. Remember, true kindness doesn't mean giving endlessly, it means giving wisely. Your well-being and your relationships will be all the stronger for it. Lesson 2. Supporting independence instead of fostering dependence. If setting boundaries is the first step, the next is learning to help in ways that truly empower others. Imagine a coach working with a team of young athletes. At first, he spends practice sessions showing them exactly how to play, running drills, and giving detailed instructions at every turn. The team improves rapidly, and the coach feels proud of their progress. But over time, something becomes apparent. As soon as he steps back, the players struggle. They're not making decisions on the field, they're looking to the sideline for every move, and they're growing overly reliant on his guidance. One day the coach decides to run a new kind of drill. He sets up a game scenario and tells the team, "I'm not going to direct you this time. Work together and figure out the strategy on your own. I'll observe and we'll debrief afterward." Initially, the players are hesitant and make several mistakes. They argue about positioning, miss obvious plays, and feel the pressure of taking ownership. But as the weeks go by, something changes. They start communicating more effectively, learning from their mistakes, and developing their own strategies. By the end of the season, they're making decisions mid-game without waiting for the coach's input. The coach is no longer a crutch. They're now a guide, helping the team become stronger and more independent. This scenario highlights a critical question. What kind of help truly helps? Generosity and guidance are invaluable, but when we consistently take on others' responsibilities, we risk enabling dependency. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "What we do now echoes in eternity." His insight isn't only about grand gestures, it applies to the small, repeated actions that shape habits. If we solve every problem for someone, we may be creating a future where they lack resilience, problem-solving skills, or confidence. So how can we provide support without fostering reliance? Consider a friend who frequently asks for help navigating challenges at work. Instead of immediately offering solutions, try saying, "What approach have you considered so far? Let's talk through what might work best." By encouraging them to think critically and try their own ideas first, you're helping them build the confidence and skills they need. Over time, they'll approach you less as a fixer and more as a sounding board, trusting their own judgment and growing more capable. Beyond the workplace, the same principle applies in personal relationships. For instance, a parent who always steps in to handle their teenagers' problems, finishing homework assignments, settling disputes, or micromanaging schedules, might inadvertently stunt their child's growth. Instead, guiding the teenager to develop time management strategies or conflict resolution skills encourages independence. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, wrote, "The wise man is self-sufficient. This isn't about denying help, but about offering the kind of help that leads to long-term self-reliance rather than short-term fixes." Changing these patterns isn't always easy. When you first encourage someone to tackle a challenge on their own, you might face resistance. They may be used to your intervention and prefer the comfort of having you solve their problems. But remember, the goal isn't to deliver a perfect solution. It's to foster confidence and resilience. Over time, their initial reluctance often transforms into appreciation. They'll start to see their own growth and value, the fact that you guided them rather than carried them. Think back to your own experiences. Have there been moments when you felt drained from helping someone repeatedly, knowing they were capable of handling things themselves? What changed when you stepped back and allowed them to take responsibility? By shifting the focus from doing everything for someone to guiding them toward their own solutions, you create a healthier balance, one where your kindness supports their independence rather than perpetuating reliance. In the end, helping others develop their own skills and confidence benefits everyone. It preserves your time and energy while providing them with tools they can rely on for a lifetime. This is how kindness truly flourishes, not by doing everything for someone, but by encouraging them to do it for themselves. Lesson 3. Kindness doesn't need reciprocity to have value. Imagine a painter who spends weeks crafting a vibrant mural for her neighborhood. She pours her heart into every brushstroke, even setting aside her weekends and evenings to ensure it's finished before the community festival. The mural depicts scenes of local history, blending bright colors and meaningful symbolism. On unveiling day, a handful of neighbors glance at it as they walk by, nodding briefly. A few children point and smile, but the applause she imagined never comes. There's no grand acknowledgement, no news article, no speeches of gratitude. For a moment she feels hollow, as though her efforts have gone unnoticed. But then she takes a step back and looks at the mural. The mural itself is beautiful, full of life, and it brings her joy. Whether others praise her or not, the act of creating something meaningful was its own reward. How often do we attach expectations to our kindness? Have you ever held the door open for someone only to feel slighted when they walked through without a word? Or perhaps you spent hours organizing a family event only to receive little acknowledgement. These moments are common, but they can be painful if we view them through the lens of unspoken contracts. Stoic philosophy teaches us a different approach, one where the value of kindness isn't tied to the response it receives, but rather to the intention behind it. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." This statement reminds us that our actions matter not because of how they're received, but because of their inherent virtue. When we give, help, or create from a place of integrity, the act itself becomes meaningful. By shifting our focus away from the expectation of reciprocation, we free ourselves from disappointment. This is not about suppressing our natural desire for appreciation. It's about recognizing that appreciation, while nice, is not what defines the value of our kindness. Consider another example, a musician who spends months writing a song dedicated to a loved one. On release day, the song doesn't go viral. In fact, it garners just a few listens and a handful of polite comments. Initially, the musician feels crushed. Why didn't more people react? But as time passes, he recalls the joy he felt during the creative process. How the lyrics came together so perfectly, how the melody lifted his own spirits. He remembers the look on his loved one's face when they first heard it, and that memory is enough. The song's worth wasn't in how many people clicked like. Its worth was in the love and effort that brought it to life. What would happen if you approached your acts of kindness the same way? Imagine the next time you helped a colleague, supported a friend, or gave someone a thoughtful gift. You let go of any expectation of thanks or recognition. Picture the freedom of giving without strings attached, of knowing that your kindness stands on its own merit. In this frame of mind, you wouldn't feel resentful if someone didn't express gratitude. Instead, you'd feel empowered by the knowledge that your actions reflect your values. This perspective doesn't just lighten your emotional load, it also changes how others perceive your kindness. People begin to notice that your generosity is genuine, not transactional. They feel less pressure to pay you back and more inspired by your sincerity. Over time, this creates more authentic, meaningful relationships. When your kindness is free from expectations, it becomes a source of strength rather than a potential source of frustration. It's worth reflecting on your past experiences. Have you ever felt let down by someone's lack of response to your generosity? Perhaps you helped a friend move into a new apartment and barely received a thank you, or you lent a coworker a listening ear during a tough time and felt ignored later. Instead of focusing on what wasn't said or done in return, consider the value of the act itself. The time and energy you gave were not wasted if they aligned with your principles. Shifting your perspective in these moments can transform the way you view kindness. In the end, kindness doesn't lose its value when it's not reciprocated. If anything, it becomes more authentic and enduring. The Stoics remind us that we control our actions, not others' reactions. By giving freely and without expectation, we not only gain emotional resilience, but we also deepen our capacity for true generosity. So the next time you find yourself hesitating to give because you fear it won't be appreciated, remember that the greatest strength in kindness comes from its purity. When you act from a place of integrity, without needing validation, you unleash a kind of kindness that is both liberating and powerful. Lesson 4. Kindness is not a sign of weakness, but an expression of inner strength. Consider a dedicated social worker, Anna, who spends her days tirelessly advocating for at-risk families. She goes above and beyond, offering resources, providing emotional support, and fighting on behalf of those who cannot fight for themselves. Yet as her workload grows, she finds that her colleagues and even her supervisors start depending on her to handle the most challenging cases. At first, she views this as a compliment to her capabilities. But over time, it becomes clear that her willingness to step up is being taken for granted. When one particularly difficult case lands on her desk, passed down by a supervisor who simply said, "I know you'll handle this better than anyone," Anna begins to feel overwhelmed. She realizes that what once was viewed as kindness is now seen as a soft spot to exploit. How often have you found yourself in a similar situation? You offer help and understanding, but instead of being met with respect and gratitude, you're seen as someone who will never push back. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This reflects the core of what kindness truly is, not an obligation or a weakness, but a deliberate choice rooted in personal integrity. When kindness comes from a place of strength, it is a powerful force, not something to be taken advantage of, but something to be valued and respected. True kindness requires strength and self-mastery. Epictetus reminded us that no man is free who is not master of himself. This wisdom applies to how we practice kindness. Being kind doesn't mean being a perpetual source of assistance or saying yes to everything. It means acting thoughtfully, maintaining your dignity, and preserving your well-being. Kindness is not about seeking approval or pleasing others at your expense. It's about staying true to your values while offering compassion. So, how can you ensure that your kindness remains an expression of inner strength? Start by recognizing when your actions are motivated by a genuine desire to help versus when they are driven by a fear of disappointing others. If you find that you're agreeing to requests because you feel obligated or afraid of conflict, take a moment to pause. Reflect on whether fulfilling that request aligns with your personal principles and priorities. This doesn't mean you stop helping others. It means you help in a way that feels right and sustainable for you. For example, if Anna were to reevaluate her situation, she might approach her supervisor and say, "I'm dedicated to this work, but I need to focus on a manageable caseload to ensure that I'm providing the best support to these families. I can't handle this additional case right now, but I'm happy to discuss how we can redistribute some of these responsibilities." By setting clear boundaries, Anna would protect her own mental health and ensure that her kindness is viewed as a thoughtful contribution, not a limitless resource. In your own life, consider how setting boundaries can elevate the quality of your kindness. When you decide what you can realistically give, you maintain control over your actions. You ensure that your efforts are intentional, not automatic. And most importantly, you cultivate relationships built on mutual respect. When others see that you value your time and energy, they are more likely to value the help you provide. Have you ever been in a situation where your kindness was misunderstood as weakness? Perhaps you always took on extra tasks at work, only to find that your colleagues stopped appreciating your contributions. Maybe you consistently helped a friend with personal problems, only to realize they started expecting you to fix everything. How did you address it? What boundaries did you put in place to regain control of your generosity? Reflecting on these experiences can help you understand where you need to draw the line. If you feel comfortable, share your story in the comments. Your experience could encourage others to recognize the strength in their own kindness. Ultimately, kindness is about making the right choices, not the easy ones. It's about understanding that true strength comes from acting with integrity, even when it's misunderstood. The next time you find yourself wondering if others are mistaking your kindness for weakness, remember that your greatest strength lies in your ability to choose when and how to give. By doing so, you maintain your self-respect and ensure that your kindness is a true expression of your inner strength. Lesson 5. Saying no is a way to protect yourself and build healthy relationships. Imagine a chef named Emily who owns a popular neighborhood bistro. Her reputation is built not only on her exceptional cooking, but also on her willingness to accommodate every request, no matter how challenging. Diners frequently call ahead asking for custom menus or last-minute dietary adjustments. Emily, wanting to maintain her image as a caring host, agrees every time. But as the months roll on, the demands multiply. A party of 10 requests an entirely gluten-free menu 2 hours before dinner service. A local food blogger emails asking if she can prepare a special off-menu dish for an upcoming review. Even Emily's staff begin relying on her to fix every kitchen mishap and resolve every front-of-house conflict. At first, Emily feels a sense of pride. She's the chef who never says no, the one who ensures every guest leaves happy. But slowly, the toll of saying yes begins to show. She's working 18-hour days, her creativity feels drained, and her relationships outside of work are suffering. When her best friend mentions she never has time to grab coffee anymore, Emily brushes it off, thinking, "I just need to push through this busy period." Yet deep down, she knows the busy period never really ends. Have you ever been in Emily's shoes? When was the last time you agreed to something that left you feeling stressed and overburdened? Perhaps it was a co-worker who asked you to take on an extra project, or a friend who needed help at the 11th hour. Maybe you said yes because you thought it was expected of you, or because you didn't want to disappoint anyone. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, offers a perspective shift. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In other words, we can't control how others perceive us, but we can control our choices and how we allocate our energy. One evening, Emily's sous chef approaches her with a last-minute request, a special dessert for a VIP guest. Normally, Emily would jump in and take over, but this time she pauses. She looks at her tired reflection in the stainless steel counter and thinks about how many nights she stayed past midnight to accommodate similar requests. Finally, she says, "I appreciate the heads up, but I think you can handle this one. Why don't you try it, and we'll talk about how it turned out tomorrow?" This small act of saying no doesn't make Emily a bad chef or a poor business owner. Instead, it marks a turning point. She realizes that declining one request doesn't erase the goodwill she's built over years. It simply allows her to focus her energy where it's most needed, on running a successful kitchen and maintaining her own well-being. What would happen if you allowed yourself to say no once in a while? Imagine the weight lifting off your shoulders, the mental clarity that comes from knowing you've set a limit. By saying no, you create the space to be fully present for the commitments that matter most. You also signal to others that your time and energy are valuable. When people see you honoring your boundaries, they begin to respect them. But saying no isn't just about reducing stress. It's about protecting your integrity. When you agree to everything, you risk diluting the quality of your work and the sincerity of your kindness. By setting limits, you ensure that when you do say yes, you're truly engaged and capable of giving your best. Over time, those around you will notice the difference. They'll see that your yes carries weight because it's given thoughtfully, not out of obligation. Think about the last time you agreed to something that left you feeling overextended. What might have happened if you'd politely declined? Could you have spent that time pursuing a personal project, recharging, or simply enjoying a quiet evening? By learning to say no, you give yourself the freedom to say yes to the things that truly enrich your life. Emily's story reminds us that saying no doesn't mean shutting people out. It means choosing when to give so that your generosity remains genuine and sustainable. The next time someone makes a request that feels overwhelming, consider responding with kindness and honesty. "I'm sorry, but I can't take this on right now. I want to ensure I'm fully focused on my current responsibilities." You'll find that most people respect a well-reasoned no far more than a resentful yes. In the end, setting boundaries and saying no isn't about selfishness. It's about preserving your ability to give in meaningful ways. By protecting your time, energy, and mental health, you ensure that when you do offer your help, it comes from a place of strength and authenticity. Have you ever said no and felt a sense of relief afterward? How did it change your relationships or your well-being? Share your experiences below. Your story might help others find the courage to set their own boundaries. Ultimately, saying no isn't about turning people away. It's about turning toward yourself. By doing so, you create healthier, more respectful relationships and maintain the energy to continue making a difference. That's the power of saying no. Lesson 6. Identify negative relationships and have the courage to cut them off. As we approach this final lesson, take a moment to reflect. Are there people in your life who leave you feeling more drained than uplifted? Perhaps it's a friend who constantly criticizes your choices, or a colleague who monopolizes your time with endless complaints. These relationships may start out as meaningful connections, but over time, they can shift into something that saps your energy and undermines your sense of well-being. It's not easy to recognize when a relationship is doing more harm than good, and it's even harder to take action, but sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself, and even for the other person, is to let go. Consider the story of Maya, an accomplished software developer, and her college roommate, Emma. Maya and Emma shared countless late-night study sessions and supported each other through tough academic challenges. After graduation, they stayed in touch, but their dynamic began to shift. Emma often criticized Maya's career choices, dismissed her successes, and rarely asked how Maya was doing. Whenever Maya tried to share something positive, Emma changed the subject or turned the conversation toward her own problems. Despite feeling hurt and undervalued, Maya continued to reach out, hoping that the old bond would somehow return. But over time, Maya began to realize that her interactions with Emma consistently left her feeling worse, not better. She'd walk away from their conversations, second-guessing her achievements, questioning her own worth, and wondering why she kept holding on. Seneca's words in his letters to Lucilius echoed in her mind. Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. Maya began to see that a truly valuable relationship should be one of mutual support and growth. This realization wasn't easy. Maya wrestled with guilt. Emma had been her friend for so long. She feared being seen as selfish or cold. But as Maya reflected further, she understood that letting go wasn't about punishment or rejection. It was about creating space for relationships that would nourish her spirit and support her journey. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Maya realized that she could choose her connections wisely, aligning them with her values and well-being. Instead of abruptly ending her friendship with Emma, Maya began to set gentle boundaries. She responded less frequently to negative comments, focused her energy on people who celebrated her successes, and gradually let her connection with Emma fade. This approach wasn't about cutting ties in anger, it was about protecting her own peace of mind. And as Maya invested more time in positive relationships, she noticed a profound shift. She felt lighter, more confident, and more inspired. What about you? Are there relationships in your life that leave you feeling anxious or undervalued? Do you hesitate to step back because of fear, guilt, or a sense of obligation? Reflect on the relationships that consistently drain your energy. Could it be that by holding on, you're preventing yourself from growing? Could it be that by letting go, you're making space for something healthier and more fulfilling? Taking action doesn't always mean an abrupt break. Start small. Set boundaries that protect your time and energy. Reduce the frequency of your interactions and notice how it impacts your emotional state. If you find yourself feeling less stressed, more confident, and more supported, it may be time to gently let that relationship fade away. As we close this final lesson, remember that letting go of negative relationships isn't about rejecting kindness. It's about practicing kindness toward yourself. By surrounding yourself with people who uplift and inspire you, you create an environment where you can thrive. So, think about one relationship that no longer serves you. What step can you take today to reclaim your energy and focus on the connections that truly matter? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience could inspire someone else to embrace healthier relationships. By choosing your relationships thoughtfully, you protect your well-being and open the door to greater growth, fulfillment, and peace. And in doing so, you make room for a life that's not only more balanced, but also more authentically kind. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to appreciate the enduring wisdom of ancient Stoic philosophers. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus gifted us not just profound reflections, but practical guides for living a life of clarity, virtue, and balance. Their insights have illuminated our path through 6 critical lessons: setting boundaries, fostering independence, releasing the need for reciprocity, understanding kindness as strength, protecting ourselves by saying no, and courageously cutting ties with negative relationships. Together, these lessons empower us to give more thoughtfully, to maintain our peace of mind, and to build connections that truly enrich our lives. Now it's your turn to take these teachings into your daily life. Start by reflecting on which lesson resonates most with you, and consider one small step you can take today to practice it. If you're new here, remember to subscribe to the channel for more practical wisdom and real-life strategies. And to our long-time viewers, thank you for being part of this community. Don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps us continue bringing meaningful content to people like you. Let's keep growing together.